Hey everyone. All right, we'll go ahead and get started with the webinar. Today's webinar is on the BigCommerce Blockbuster Enterprise Edition. The estimated time for the webinar will be about 20 minutes. I'm your presenter. I'm Calvin Luttrell. I'm the CEO and founder of Project Thunder. Today's topic is on BigCommerce Enterprise Edition. The ideal candidate for the webinar is going to be shop owners who are doing at least $100,000 per month in sales or aspire to take a short path to get there to increase their overall sales by 50 to 100%. Our hope is by the end of the webinar that you'll have a better understanding of the BigCommerce Enterprise Edition and the offer for your business and how you can overcome limitations. So BigCommerce is actually in Texas. Texas is a big state. I'm not sure if that inspired the name, but it is a big world and is a big internet with a lot of big markets. So I really like this photo. I just wanted to kind of open with this to get started about BigCommerce. This is me. I am the founder of Project Thunder. I have a little bit about my experience. I won't get too much into me so much, but if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, I am at Calvin Luttrell. I did start my career at Goldmine, and if you take a look at my LinkedIn page, you'll see that I have quite a bit of experience in e-commerce and in this market, also going back into CRM and sales and marketing. We started Project Thunder about 11 years ago to help customers who were working with e-commerce. We've worked with a lot of different platforms. BigCommerce is just one of many of the platforms we work with. Some of the platforms that we work with are more code-based, so we actually write code in the back end, or sometimes we even build shopping carts completely from scratch. However, the best bang for the buck that we're seeing out in the market for SaaS-based solutions is this BigCommerce application that is doing quite well in the market, is clearly one of the leaders. And more recently, they've opened up a enterprise space for customers who are looking for those sort of larger features. And we've been calling out, just like you guys probably heard from Raphael. He had reached out to a lot of customers over the summer, especially. And just one of the things that we're seeing is that customers are more stretched for time than they've ever been. The margins are stretched more than they've ever been. And we're just seeing that customers are kind of painting a bleak picture. And having talked with a lot of BigCommerce people especially, I find that a lot of customers are actually reaching out to other companies. They're talking to 4, 5, 6 companies, trying to find somebody who can help them sort of navigate what to do. Some customers are talking to people who will do everything for you, the website, the marketing, and everything else. Basically hand your whole business over to them and they take care of everything for you, and some customers want that. Other customers are looking for features that would help them win in their space. And what they don't know is that BigCommerce actually has an enterprise version that already has a lot of these features. And when I was speaking with the folks over at BigCommerce a few months ago, it became evident to both of us that even though they've kind of reached out and maybe they sent an email or something like that, it may not be very evident what enterprise means or if it has any value. And so that's why I wanted to do this webinar and kind of go over some of that today. So having called thousands of you and having talked to dozens of you even just recently, we're finding that a lot of customers have exactly the same textbook problems. And it's not that we're clairvoyant, or it's that we've learned from working with a multitude of customers and having a lot of experience with e-commerce specifically. I myself have run e-commerce stores. Historically, I'm a software developer, but when you need to learn what your clients are going through, we've started up sales. We know what it's like to lose $10,000 a month in Google pay-per-click. And so it's, we've been through all of that. And we also know what it's like on the other end, where maybe you're doing really well. You're doing, like we've had stores, especially during Christmas season, that might do $30,000 a month. But if your distributor or your manufacturer goes out of business on you, that's not necessarily something your fault, but it's still something you have to deal with. So we know what, a little bit kind of like what folks are dealing with just from our own experience of doing e-commerce stores. And the truth is that once you overcome some of these learning curves, you guys will also be able to benefit from your fair share of orders. And if you choose so, you could partner with a company like us, and not just me, but we have a whole team of people here from marketing all the way down to C++ programmers who could effectively help you with any of the challenges you have today. All right, so I used this term recently. I call it the retail approach to service. I used Apple as an example to pick on them a little bit because they're kind of famous for two things, right? People waiting in line and people spending a lot of money. So um, now there's nothing wrong with what BigCommerce is doing on the retail side of their business. They obviously have a very entry-level product that you can get into. However, when you think about service and if you think about what you need for your business, what we heard from customers is that they don't have any kind of relationship, like a dedicated relationship with one specific individual, somebody who cares about the success of the outcomes. A lot of times that, if you're running a holiday promotion and there's something wrong with the website, people are calling you and telling you that they can't check out, they can't get the order through, and there's simply no one for you to work with. That could be incredibly frustrating. And I had a handful of customers who spent a lot of time sort of articulating not so much that that they weren't open during outside business hours, but just sort of a lack of, we just don't care, it's your problem, that sort of thing. And I haven't heard a lot of people say about BigCommerce, but especially in talking with like Shopify customers and things like that, we find that people on the retail end are not necessarily over the moon about the support. And obviously there's limitations in what can be provided. There's a long wait times, and sometimes if you do get your issue into the queue, it can be a long time before it actually gets resolved. And what I tell people is, like, you don't want like a GoDaddy experience. This is your business, not the DMV. You really need a fast, responsive fix for whatever problem you're having. A lot of times too, not so much at BigCommerce, but other companies especially, they have kind of like low-end tech support people, and they're just kind of reading you a script, and you sort of want to strangle them, but you realize that they've been put in a bad position by whoever hired them. And even with your advertisers, if you're spending a lot of money with them, just because you're writing Google a check for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month, it doesn't mean that you're a customer. What it means is that you outbid another customer with your money. So if you don't make that bid, there's always somebody else there to make that bid on if you're not there. And so there is a dynamic that is set up that Google is not as concerned about your success, because the way that their whole business model is driven is that the people who are successful will effectively just outperform your campaign, and they'll get a better pay-per-click rate and sort of benefit from that. Now, when you get to the point where you are spending a lot of money with Google, they will give you a rep and they will help you a little bit. But even working with customers, I find that a lot of them actually have abandoned Google altogether and focused entirely on other strategies. The other thing that's also I've heard a lot of concerns about are third-party microservices. So for instance, you might have like a Nextopia or a SearchSpring or some sort of third-party application. There are hundreds of them, literally, and it's really hard to know which ones you actually need and which ones you don't, which ones are double billing you every month and which ones are causing problems. There are no clear winners, and so it does make it difficult to sort of navigate all of those things. Another complaint that, or category of complaints that we heard, was sort of the lack of technological advancement in the platform as far as like features that every other website has or competitors have. Can't seem to get them rolled out. A lot of people were really concerned about the performance of their website. And a lot of they start to find out that when they're on those low-end plans, that their website is actually hosted on a server with thousands of other websites, and sort of like living in a very large apartment building. If your neighbor has a kid who's up all night with the stomach flu, you're up all night with that problem as well, because you can physically hear the sound coming through the wall. And it's pretty similar, well, actually, with websites. Even though your website might be just fine, if another website that's running on the same server is experiencing problems or is being hacked or is a DDoS attack, it's definitely going to affect the performance of your website. And so and that does affect your ranking with Google, because why would Google send somebody to a slow website when they could send someone to a fast website? So there's just rationales and things that have to be considered. There's a lot of concern about not having a lot of the cool features that kind of like Facebook has. People are getting used to these really rich experiences and they're unable to deliver them on their website. Lack of a basic SEO control. Most people think of SEO as search engine optimization. I try to sway people away from that, tricking the bots, and instead focus on actually getting customers to want to buy your products. So I'm trying to get people to think about sales engagement optimization. Let's focus on the customers, not bots. You're never going to outsmart all the people at Google. Your best strategy is always going to be to focus on keeping customers happy. There's also people have trouble. They can't track their ad dollars. They haven't the slightest idea which ad. It's like they just throw a bunch of money out there. They don't know what's converting, what isn't. They might get. We've shown customers that were getting all kinds of great SEO traffic, but upon closer examination, none of that traffic was actually converting into sales. So there's all kinds of things you have to look at, and if you don't have the tools, you just don't know. Also, it's becoming almost imperative that you sell your products across different channels: eBay, Amazon, Jet. There are a whole array of these partners that are out there, Sears, and they all have their own manicuring requirements, meaning that you have to categorize them a certain way. You have to have your descriptions written nice. You don't want your product titles to all be in uppercase. They all have different requirements, and you have to be able to upload those products, do it effectively, and process all your orders effectively, because even 1 or 2 complaints on eBay can have your entire business shut down. In fact, I had a customer about 7 years ago that had 2 complaints on their eBay store, and so eBay penalized them by shutting them down for the entire calendar month of October. Well, this customer, their business was selling Halloween costumes, so you can imagine that being shut down for the entire month of October effectively put them out of business, even though it was meant as just a punitive damage on eBay's part for the 30 days. And this was back when Meg Whitman was working there, so of course we were writing her letters, and I helped this client fight eBay effectively for weeks, and we did get them back online, but of course it took beyond 30 days. So it's not to be underestimated, the challenges in dealing with these channels, because there's not a lot of incentive on their behalf to be nice to you, and that's just kind of the way it is. It is a very shrewd thing. So they are the kingmakers. Google, all the different channels. They're of course going to be kingmakers in your specific industry. You're going to have kingmakers, periodicals, trade magazines, trade organizations. Those folks are might be directly related to you. But as far as the broader kingmakers like Google and Amazon, you do kind of have to cater to them. This is an article from Yahoo that I send to people. It came out in May. We've known about it for a long time. It's basically that Google is basically reworking its entire strategy around mobile websites. Now, a lot of you guys actually already have responsive design in your website, and I applaud you for that, because there are a lot of folks that have just not had time to deal with it yet. But it is I send this article to people, warning, iceberg ahead, emergency measures, and unfortunately everyone's already dealing with a lot of emergencies, so they don't actually recognize that the fact that their website is only capable of really serving about half of the internet traffic, because it's half of the internet traffic on the internet is on mobile phones, not desktops. If you're watching this on a mobile phone, then it would be more the norm, and if you're watching it on a desktop, most of the internet traffic is on mobile devices at this point, because people are using those devices when they're not able to be in front of their computers. So this is stuff that people need to think about, and they need to have a partner who's going to help them navigate these things. When my clients didn't know about responsive design, I sent them this article. I followed up and called them. Did you read the article? We sent them mock-ups of what their website would look like with responsive design, to make sure that they were educated about it, because these things are changing, and they're changing fast. And so this would just be one piece of course, in the enterprise version of BigCommerce, it does support responsive design, and it's going to be something that you guys can work on to increase your sales. So now that we've kind of talked about a lot of the things that people have been telling us that they're looking for, I'm going to talk a little bit about what would it look like if you did upgrade to BigCommerce Enterprise. How does this benefit you and your business? Okay, well, for starters, you're going to have more free time, because you're now going to have a 24/7 support team. And not to say anything negative about the entry-level support people at BigCommerce, because I've had good experiences with them, at least myself. But the enterprise level support is just a higher caliber. When I worked at Goldmine, I started off as an entry-level tech support person, and I handled calls from the general public. And after I had been there for a few years and I had proved myself, I was graduated to a higher echelon of support. And that's the way it works. The people that have been there longer and have more experience work with the more important clients. That's the way it works I'm sure, at your business as well. And so you want to have access to the top support people, because if you have a problem with your website, yes, you're losing orders, while that problem exists. But more importantly, you're losing headspace, because if you're not tracking that problem in your mind or in a list somewhere, it's taking up headspace, it's taking away energy from other things your business needs to deal with. Also, you're going to have, if you use the promotions, the merchandising capabilities in the new platform that you may not have access to now, you're going to have more free time because you can schedule all your promotions when you have time to do it. So if you sit down and you schedule all of your promotions for the next quarter, let's say in a over the course of a long morning or a long afternoon, then your promotions are going to be more effective as they roll out. The people who are doing their promotions real time, like if it's a week before Valentine's Day and you're trying to get your promotion together at the last minute, those campaigns are not as successful. And so because those campaigns are not as successful, people don't do them as often. And because they don't do them as often, they don't tap into the existing psychological cues that are already in place for people to buy. Now, if your sales process on your website is different, or maybe you're not doing direct, maybe not selling a widget or something along those lines, then you certainly can look at those sales strategies as well. But being able to handle promotions and get all of your banners and such all scheduled in advance, those people tend to be more successful because it's just a more thought out campaign and it's not coming together at the last minute like a lot of campaigns do. And those are the kinds of things that we find that are helping people win more in this world. You're going to have more sales, especially if you have a mobile problem and customers are avoiding your website because you don't support their device, then you're definitely going to get more sales. It's a no-brainer on that front. There's also going to be, because the platform comes with what I would call a Google-like search, meaning that as you type in the search box, you'll get automatic results, and those results will automatically be tuned to products that people actually buy on your website. You're going to see higher conversions, because instead of people going back to Google to look for a product, if they can't find it, if they landed on your site and they didn't find what they were looking for, and they start typing in that search box, if they don't start to see some instant results, they're gone, and they're going back to Google, and they're going to start looking for something else. And so you want them to stay on your website. You want your website to be the portal for that particular scope of that particular purchase. Also, if you're catering to the search engines, the kingmakers, like I'm suggesting you should, then you're going to get more organic traffic, because they want to send their users to the websites that they think their users are going to have the best experience on. And so they're obviously looking out for their interest as well. And when you optimize your pages correctly, something also happens, like success begets more success. What happens is when you get your pages optimized correctly, it's going to lower your pay-per-click. If you do dabble in the pay-per-click, it's going to give you a higher conversion on the website. And just in general, there's a lot of features in Enterprise, like abandoned orders and things like that. Those are just, I call it low-hanging fruit. They're no-brainers. And then finally, if you choose to work with a company like Project Thunder, you'll have a clear partner, somebody to help you navigate which add-in you need, which one you don't. All right, so we do have a special bonus, and it seems silly at first, but we are offering anyone who's interested in signing up for the Enterprise version, we're going to give you a free toaster. Seems kind of silly, but in reality, most people just offer a consultation. You're going to get the consultation anyways if you want it, but I will seriously mail you this toaster if you sign up for the BigCommerce version. So I'm sure most of you are saying, Calvin, this is all fantastic. How much does it cost? And so the key to that, the price, the Enterprise features are starting at $250. So what happens is that even just one of the features that I've mentioned, like let's say the search and merchandising feature, if you were to call any of the and people that we're partners with, SearchSpring, Nextopia, all those companies, just that one feature alone will cost you $350 a month, not including all the other things like having a website that's super fast and all the other benefits. So if your business has a pulse and you do have sales, this is something that you can do for the holiday season that will have a very low risk of causing any problems and a very high chance of increasing your orders, even if you don't have time to really take advantage of all of the new features. All right, I know that some of you are still not impressed, so I'm going to keep going. Erase yourselves. BigCommerce value is coming. So there are, of course, a ton of people that have made the time, that have had a little discipline and been able to implement the Enterprise version. A lot of big brands. Some people care about that. It's not something that I personally care about, but I know that a lot of companies are looking for to see what the big brands are going with. And so if you are looking for that, I encourage you to go to the BigCommerce site and click on the Enterprise tab and take a look at some of the brands and take a look at some of these stories. People are doing very, very well with this, and even smaller companies are doing well with it. Okay. I don't know if anybody remembers this commercial from like the early 90s. It says about customer service and making guarantees. It's a Circuit City commercial where this kid bought this Walkman, and the dad says, well, you bought it, kid, so if you want to deal with the price difference, you go. Walks up to the counter, and he's like, hey, I bought this thing, and now I got this newspaper. It says it's on sale somewhere else for some other price. He's like, I opened the paper, and there it was. He's like, here's your $1. He's like, that's it? Cool. And it's Circuit City, where service is state-of-the-art. So BigCommerce does not offer a money-back guarantee. However, they do make some guarantees as far as your experience on the enterprise platform. So on my part, what I'm willing to do, outside of the toaster, of course, is that I'd be happy if, for whatever reason, which I don't think would ever happen, but if you were not satisfied with the enterprise version, I personally will harass BigCommerce and do whatever is necessary to get you back on the version that you were on before, and put everything right back where it is. And that's sort of the beauty of this offer, is that if it's not moving to another platform. You're staying on BigCommerce. We're not taking you anywhere. I don't want to say it's just a button push on their part, but it is a transfer. But it's something that they do very often. They take you off of the slower server and they put you onto the faster server. And the faster server has all the software upgrades that give you all the features. And so the risk of, if you've ever changed websites and you know what a nightmare that is, I help people do this for a living. So I know exactly how hard it is. And so this is something that is low risk. And I wanted to point that out. So the first thing is that, of course, your pages are all going to load very, very quickly, 145 milliseconds. And that's going to be the case, like I said, if you're in an apartment building and your neighbor gets, like I said, the neighbor's kid is up all night with some sort of stomach flu, you're going to be up all night too. And so this is like basically a protection against this. So this is a little more like a townhouse than it is like an apartment. So there's some separation between you and your neighbors. Also, the amount of resources that are reserved for you are much, much higher than anything on the lower end. And so they're basically ready to handle 500,000 hits per minute. I guess if you give it like a practical example, that might be like a lot of these people who are running for president, they have these $5 a month hosting plans, and then their name gets mentioned once on the television and their website goes down, can't handle the traffic because it was his site or her site and tens of thousands of other websites. The thing that I like about this the most is that there's lots of benefits. Even if you don't have time to take advantage of the features, Google likes fast websites. There's just no doubt about it. In fact, if you log into your Google Webmaster program, it will tell you how many pages you have that are loading slowly. They like it for those pages to load quick. There are a lot of benefits you can take advantage of, even if you don't have time to actually go in and start taking advantage of the merchandising and all the other things. There's also this website is more secure than other websites, and that's because even though you do have SSL in the checkout, generally websites stay on standard port 80. And so what you're starting to see is that like the cool kids like Facebook and all those guys are basically, it's site-wide HTTPS. And the reason for that is because basically because of the number of people being hacked these days, anyone who's sort of listening in on that conversation, at this point, it's like it's effectively free to encrypt everything. So as a bonus on this, they basically the site-wide HTTPS, just like Facebook. That way, the conversations between your customers and your server are encrypted the entire time. It also has DDoS protection. So just like the example I gave with the apartment building, if your neighbor gets a bunker bomb dropped on them, you're getting a bunker bomb dropped on you. And so on this platform, there is a DDoS protection so that if your neighbor is a target, because not everybody's a target for these sort of DDoS attacks, but if there's another website on the server that's a political blog that some hacker wants to take down, you have a protection there that your website won't be affected by it. Of course, there's the lowest possible risk because again, you're staying with BigCommerce. And these conversions that you could start to benefit immediately would be over the holiday season, over the next 3 months. For those of you who are doing like retail sales to the public, you're going to make a lot of money over the next 3 months, hopefully. And this could be something that You can turn on, try it out over the holiday season, and if you're not impressed, then you could simply take your case to BigCommerce and tell them that you didn't see the increase you thought you were going to see. But I think that you'll see, excuse me, I think you'll see a big increase, and you'll be very happy that you decided to invest a little bit more into the relationship with BigCommerce. And if you really invest, you might invest in a relationship with Project Thunder. All right, well, that is the special offer. I have one more thing I'm going to go over. And because the number one thing that I've heard from every single person that I've talked to is that they're totally crushed on time. In fact, the fact that as many of you made it to this webinar as you did is impressive, and I appreciate that. But I also know that from here on, it's going to be a decision about, it's not usually about the will or the money, it's usually about the time. And so I wanted to stress about the fact that the upgrade will not take up a lot of your time. And if you decide to go back, that I will invest some of my time to make sure that you're made whole, at least on your time end. Now, if you've recognized this chart, if you know who Stephen Covey is, then you probably know where I'm going with this. Stephen Covey is a consultant. He passed away a few years ago, but he's consulted for the US government. He's advised presidents. And he wrote a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of those habits is time management. And one aspect of time management is this thing he calls the 4 quadrants. I won't get into all of the detail. I do have a link here to this PDF, and I'm going to ask you guys to email me if you want a copy of the presentation. But basically, you have this thing called Quadrant 2. Those are things that are not urgent, but they're important. This upgrade to BigCommerce is not urgent, but it is important. And the more time you're able to put into Quadrant 2, what you're going to find is that your business is going to be smoother because you're going to have more time and you're going to have more money, because if you want to change the trajectory of where your business is going, you have to put your time into Quadrant 2. Every single person who emails you, every company from India that's calling you and telling you that it's urgent that they talk to you about selling you something, all those things are urgent, I guess. But as far as the things that are important, this BigCommerce upgrade is something that would be important for your business. And if you're not sure if it's important for your business, I would be happy to discuss it with you and give you my take on it. So I would encourage everyone to put more time here, and it is a lifelong practice, but the more proactive you are in your business, then the less you're going to be putting out fires in what we call crisis management. That's not why you started the business, was to be involved in the crisis management. You want to have a good, healthy business. You have to kind of push back on the loudest voices that may be saying things are urgent and focus on the things that are important. All right, well, this is basically wrapping up the webinar. My email is calvin@projectthunder.com. So if you are silly like us and you want to take us up on our toaster offer and you want to do this upgrade, then email me at calvin@projectthunder.com. Or if you prefer, you can call me at 877-609-9029, extension 801. If you do email me and you have some big initiatives you want to talk about too, go ahead and include those in the email. If you email me, I will be connecting you with a sales representative at BigCommerce to start walking you through the process of the upgrade. Like I said, it's not going to take a lot of time. And then just in closing, I'll have this nice photo here from Hubble Deep Field with a quote from A Course in Miracles. It says, when you meet anyone, remember it is a holy encounter. So thank you so much for spending this time in the webinar. And if this is something that you believe would benefit your business, I would strongly encourage you to reach out, and we'll see if we can get you set up quickly. Thank you so much.